The message came on a Tuesday, not with a bang, not with flashing lights in the sky, but as a simple signal that interrupted every broadcast on Earth simultaneously. For 3 minutes, screens around the world displayed nothing but static. Then they came back online, as if nothing had happened. Jack Miller was eating lunch when his phone rang. As the lead diplomat for the United Earth government, unexpected calls were common. This one was different. "Sir, you need to come in now," said the voice of his assistant. "Something big is happening." 6 hours later, Jack sat in a secured room beneath the UEG headquarters in Geneva. Scientists, military personnel, and government officials filled the space, all staring at a large screen that showed a pulsing dot approaching Earth orbit. "It's slowing down," said Lisa Powell, the head of the astronomy division. "Whatever it is, it's not natural. Natural objects don't slow down in space." By morning, the object had settled into Earth orbit. It was massive, nearly a mile long, and shaped like a perfect cylinder. The world held its breath. "They're sending a transmission," announced the communications officer. It's in English." The alien message was simple. "Preparing to send representatives. Clear a landing zone." 3 days later, Jack stood on a hastily prepared landing field in neutral Switzerland. Beside him were the president of the UEG and leaders from major world powers. A small craft had detached from the cylinder and was now descending through the atmosphere, leaving a trail of blue light. The craft touched down without a sound. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then a door slid open, and 5 beings emerged. They looked almost human, except for their gray-blue skin and eyes that were too large. They wore what appeared to be ceremonial robes with symbols Jack couldn't begin to understand. The tallest of the aliens stepped forward. "I am Kralfax, envoy of the Galactic Empire. Your world is now under our protection and authority." The words were spoken in perfect English, though the alien's mouth didn't seem to move in sync with them. Later, in a meeting room, Kralfax explained the situation to Earth's leaders. The Empire spanned thousands of star systems. They had been watching Earth for decades, waiting for humans to develop sufficient technology to be worth contacting. "You will be expected to provide resources and tribute," Kralfax said. "In return, you receive imperial protection and access to certain approved technologies." Jack leaned forward. "What if we prefer to maintain our independence? We're willing to establish diplomatic relations as equals." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Equality. Your species has barely left its own solar system. You are not equals. You are subjects. The Empire does not negotiate with primitive worlds." "We don't consider ourselves primitive," said Lisa Powell, who had been invited to provide scientific expertise. Kralfax turned those large eyes toward her. "You still use combustion engines. You still die from simple diseases. You still fight wars among yourselves. By imperial standards, you are barely civilized." The president tried to regain control of the conversation. "Perhaps we can discuss terms that would be mutually beneficial." "The terms are not negotiable," said Kralfax. "You have 1 month to prepare your formal submission to imperial authority. A delegation will come to receive it. Resistance would be unwise." That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He stood at the window of his Geneva apartment, looking up at the stars. Somewhere up there was the alien cylinder, watching. And beyond that, an empire that saw Earth as nothing more than another possession. His phone rang again. It was the president. "Jack, I'm calling an emergency session. All nations. We need options." "Do we have any?" Jack asked. There was a long pause. "I don't know, but I refuse to surrender humanity's freedom without exploring every possibility." Jack looked back up at the stars. "I'll be there in an hour." The stars looked different to him now. Not a frontier of possibility, but a threat looming over everything humanity had built. The emergency meeting lasted 3 days. Leaders from every nation on Earth gathered in the underground bunker beneath Geneva. For the first time in human history, old enemies sat side by side, united by a common threat. Jack Miller had barely slept. His eyes were red as he presented the final report from his diplomatic team. "The Empire isn't bluffing," he said. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours. Their ships can destroy our cities from orbit. We cannot win a direct fight." The room fell silent. On the large screen behind Jack was an image of Kralthax's ship, now joined by 3 smaller vessels. Admiral Henry Ward stood up. He was an older man with gray hair who had led Earth's space defense fleet for 15 years. "They expect us to surrender," he said. "But humans have faced impossible odds before. We always find a way." Karen Williams raised her hand. She was young for her position as head of advanced weapons research, but brilliant. "There might be an option," she said quietly. "Something we've never had to consider before." All eyes turned to her. "It's called the Samson option," she continued, "named after the biblical figure who brought down a temple on himself and his enemies. It was a theoretical protocol developed during the Cold War, but never implemented." Peter Gonzalez, her research partner, stood beside her. "We've been studying it. The concept is extreme. It would involve destroying Earth itself rather than allowing conquest." Gasps filled the room. The president's face paled. "Destroy our own planet? That's suicide," someone shouted. "Yes," said Karen, "but it would also destroy any Imperial forces in the area, and possibly more." Susan Martinez, an ethics professor who had been invited to the meeting, stood up. "We're talking about the death of billions of innocent people, our entire world. There must be another way." The debate raged through the night. Some argued for submission, hoping to gain time to build resistance. Others wanted to fight, even against impossible odds. The Samson option remained on the table, a last resort that no one wanted to consider. At dawn on the 4th day, they reached a decision. Jack stood before the assembled leaders. "The vote is final. Earth will not submit to Imperial rule. We will inform Kralthax of our decision and prepare for their response." Admiral Ward nodded grimly. "My fleet will move into defensive positions. We won't win, but we'll make them work for it." "And the Samson option?" asked Karen. The president looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each leader. "We authorize research to continue, but implementation will require unanimous consent of this council. It remains a last resort only." 3 days later, Jack stood in the same field where the aliens had first landed. This time, he was alone except for a small security team. Kralthax emerged from his craft, flanked by guards carrying what looked like weapons. "I bring Earth's response," Jack said, his voice steady despite his fear. "I assume you've come to arrange the submission ceremony," said Kralthax. Jack took a deep breath. "No, Earth rejects Imperial rule. We wish to establish peaceful relations as equals, but we will not submit." Kralthax stared at him. Those large eyes didn't blink. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. Submission is mandatory." "Not to us," said Jack. "Humans value freedom above all else. We would rather fight and lose than live as slaves." The alien made that strange laughing sound again. "Then you will die. The Empire has conquered thousands of worlds. None have successfully resisted. We'll be the first," Jack said. Kralthax turned without another word and boarded his craft. As it rose into the air, Jack's phone rang. "Did you deliver the message?" asked the president. "Yes," said Jack. "They didn't take it well. We didn't expect them to. Come back immediately. Our long-range sensors show movement. A large fleet just entered the outer solar system." Jack looked up at the sky. The sun was setting, stars beginning to appear. Somewhere up there, an Imperial armada was coming. And on Earth, humans were preparing to do what they'd always done when facing impossible odds. They would fight. The Imperial fleet arrived faster than expected. 7 massive ships, each larger than a city, appeared in Earth's orbit within days. Smaller craft swarmed around them like angry bees. The first attack came without warning. Luna Base, Humanity's largest settlement on the moon vanished in a flash of light. Nearly 10,000 people died instantly. "They're showing us what they can do," said Admiral Ward in the war room. His face was grim as satellite footage played on the screens. Those were civilians, scientists and miners. Jack Miller watched in horror. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" "Yes," said Admiral Ward. "They're softening us up before the main assault." The next targets were Earth's orbital stations. One by one, they went dark. Some were destroyed outright. Others were boarded by Imperial troops. Major Eric Sanders led the defense of Station Liberty, the largest of Earth's orbital platforms. His small force of Space Marines held off the aliens for 6 hours before their position was overrun. "This is Major Sanders," came his final transmission. "They've breached the main airlock. There are too many. We can't hold them back anymore." There was the sound of gunfire, then static. On Earth, panic spread. Millions fled major cities, fearing they would be the next targets. Governments struggled to maintain order. In the underground bunker, Karen Williams and Peter Gonzalez worked without sleep. The Samson option was no longer theoretical. It was being built. "We found something in the old archives," Karen told Jack when he visited their lab. Cold War research that was abandoned for being too dangerous. She showed him diagrams of devices that made no sense to him. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "A way to destabilize the fundamental forces that hold matter together," Peter explained. "It was never built because the scientists realized it could crack the planet open like an egg. And now we're building it." Jack asked, horrified. "A modified version," said Karen. "One that might give us a chance." Above them, the war in space continued. Earth launched everything it had: missiles, fighter craft, orbital defense platforms that had been hidden in case of war. None of it made a difference. The Imperial ships shrugged off the attacks like a man brushing away flies. Their return fire was precise and devastating. Military bases, power plants, communication centers. One by one, Earth's defenses crumbled. Admiral Ward coordinated a desperate counterattack from his flagship. 100 ships, the best Earth had, against a single Imperial cruiser. "All ships, this is Admiral Ward. Follow attack pattern Delta. Hit them with everything you've got." The human fleet moved as one, closing in on the alien vessel from all sides. Missiles streaked through space. Rail guns fired continuously. For a moment, it seemed to be working. The Imperial ship's shields flickered. Then it fired back. 87 human ships destroyed in under a minute. The rest scattered, badly damaged. "We bought some time," Admiral Ward told the President in his report. "But not much. Their main assault ships are still intact and moving into position." Meanwhile, Imperial probes descended to Earth. Small, fast machines that darted through the atmosphere, scanning everything below. They were mapping Earth's remaining defenses, preparing for the ground invasion to come. In secret facilities around the world, the components of the Samson option were being assembled. Karen and Peter traveled constantly, overseeing the work. "Will it be ready in time?" Jack asked during a secure call. Karen looked exhausted. "It has to be. We've detected their troop carriers preparing to launch. Once they establish a foothold on Earth." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Jack looked out the window of his bunker at the night sky. Imperial ships were visible now, bright points of light moving among the stars. Soon, they would bring their full might down on Earth. Humanity was running out of time. While the Empire believed humans were merely stalling for time, a secret plan was taking shape. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that didn't officially exist, engineer Alan Foster made a breakthrough. "I found a way," he told Karen Williams. His hand shook as he displayed his work on the screen. "We can create tiers in space-time itself." Karen studied the equations. This would destroy more than just Earth. The effect would spread. Alan nodded. "That's the point. When Earth dies, the rupture will expand outward. Anything near our planet will be caught in it. The technology was based on research abandoned decades ago for being too dangerous. It involved manipulating the fundamental forces that held reality together. The devices, once activated, would destabilize Earth's core and create expanding rifts in the fabric of space. "There's something else," said Lisa Powell, who had joined the project. She had been studying the Imperial communications they'd managed to intercept. "I think humans have a unique advantage." She explained her discovery. The neurological patterns of human brains were different from the aliens. This difference allowed humans to interact with the space-time technology in ways the Empire's species could not. "We can control the initial spread," she said, "direct it towards their ships, but it requires direct neural connection. The operators would be at the center of the rupture when it begins. So whoever uses these devices will die," said Alan. Lisa nodded. "Yes, but they might save everyone else." Despite the terrible cost, volunteers came forward, people willing to sacrifice themselves to give humanity a chance. They began training to operate the doomsday devices, learning to focus the destructive energy outward, toward the Imperial fleet. On the surface, the situation grew more desperate. Imperial probes had given way to the first wave of ground troops. They established beachheads in remote areas, building landing zones for the main invasion force. Earth's military fought back with everything they had. Soldiers who had once been enemies now fought side by side against the alien threat. But each day, they lost ground. Jack Miller traveled between command centers in a small, unmarked aircraft. The Empire controlled much of the sky now, making every flight dangerous. "How much longer until the Samson option is ready?" he asked Karen during a secure call. 2 days, she said. "We're positioning the devices at key points around the world. Alan is making final adjustments to ensure maximum effect." "And the volunteers?" Karen's voice grew quiet. "They know what they're doing, Jack. They're heroes." The Empire seemed unaware of the plan. Their communications, which humans had learned to partially decode, showed they believed victory was certain. They were simply taking their time, methodically establishing control before the final push. Commander Xor Krath, who had replaced Kralthax as leader of the invasion, sent a message to all Earth's communication networks. "Your resistance is futile but admirable," the alien said. "The Empire respects strength, even in defeat. Surrender now, and your people will be treated fairly. Continue to resist, and we will have no choice but to make examples of your major population centers." The world's leaders gathered one final time. The president looked at each person around the table. "We have a choice to make," she said. "Surrender to the Empire and live as slaves, or activate the Samson option and ensure the Empire pays a terrible price for their aggression." Susan Martinez, still advocating for peace, spoke up. "There must be another way. We're talking about destroying our own world." "Our world is already lost," said Admiral Ward. "The question now is whether we go quietly or take them with us." The vote was not unanimous, but it was clear. Earth would not surrender. The Samson option would proceed. Jack volunteered to meet with Xor Krath one last time, ostensibly to discuss surrender terms. His real purpose was to delay the final assault, giving the teams time to finish their preparations. "We're not just fighting for Earth anymore," he told Karen before departing. "We're fighting for what it means to be human." The Imperial deadline passed. Earth had given its answer through continued resistance, and now the Empire was done waiting. A vast armada entered Earth's atmosphere, thousands of ships darkening the skies over major cities. Jack Miller stood on the roof of the Geneva building, watching the alien vessels hover overhead like metal clouds. His secure phone rang. "It's time," said the president. "Are you sure about this?" "Yes," Jack replied. "I need to look them in the eye when I deliver our message." An hour later, he sat in a shuttle rising toward the largest Imperial ship. Commander Xor Krath had agreed to one final meeting. The alien thought Jack was coming to negotiate surrender terms. He was wrong. The inside of the Imperial flagship was cold and strange. The walls seemed to pulse with light. Jack was led through curving corridors to a large chamber where Exorcrath waited. The alien commander was taller than Krell Thax had been, with skin that shifted colors as he moved. "Human diplomat," Exorcrath said. "You have fought well, but now it is time to accept reality. The terms of your surrender." Jack stood straight. "I'm not here to surrender. I'm here to deliver a message from Earth." The alien's eyes narrowed. "Then speak." "We would rather die free than live as slaves," Jack said, his voice steady. "And we will not die alone." Exorcrath made a dismissive gesture. "Empty threats. Your weapons cannot harm our fleet. Your defenses are broken. Your cities lie open before us." "You misunderstand," said Jack. "We're not threatening to harm your fleet. We're promising to destroy it, along with ourselves." For the first time, the alien seemed uncertain. "Explain." Jack smiled sadly. "You'll see soon enough. The Empire believes it understands humanity. You don't. There's an old Earth story about a trapped animal. When it can't escape, it will chew off its own limb to be free. That's humanity. We value freedom more than life itself." While Jack spoke, around the world, the final preparations for the Samson option were being completed. The devices, now called Liberty Points, were positioned at strategic locations worldwide. Each was connected to a volunteer operator, a human willing to die to ensure the plan's success. Karen Williams supervised from a bunker in the Andes. "All stations report ready," her assistant said, awaiting final authorization. Karen looked at the display showing Jack's meeting with Exorcrath. They had hidden a transmitter in his clothes. When he spoke the trigger phrase, they would know it was time. On the Imperial flagship, Exorcrath had lost patience. "Your metaphors are meaningless," the alien said. "You cannot harm us. The Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds. None have successfully resisted." "We'll be the first," Jack said, repeating the words he had spoken to Krell Thax weeks ago. The trigger phrase. In her bunker, Karen heard the signal. "All stations. This is control. You are authorized to proceed. May your sacrifice save us all." Across Earth, the volunteers activated their connections to the Liberty Points. Peter Gonzalez was among them, stationed at a device in what had once been China. Major Sanders, who had escaped the space station battle, operated another in Brazil. They knew they would die, but they also knew their deaths would have meaning. Their consciousness would guide the dimensional ruptures, focusing them outward toward the Imperial fleet. Exorcrath was still speaking when alarms began to sound throughout the ship. "What trickery is this?" the alien demanded. Jack felt the first tremors beneath his feet. Even here, in orbit, the effects were beginning to spread. "No trickery," he said. "Just humanity's final act of defiance." On Earth, the ground began to shake. Massive fissures opened in the crust. Oceans boiled as the planet's core became unstable. But as Earth began to tear itself apart, something else was happening. Invisible at first, dimensional ruptures spread outward from each Liberty Point, faster than light, tearing through the fabric of reality. The Empire had never seen anything like it. Their ships, caught in the expanding web of space-time distortions, began to break apart. Earth died in fire and light. Around the world, the Liberty Points activated one by one, operated by volunteers who knew they would not survive. Each person connected to a device felt the same thing. A brief moment of terrible pain followed by a strange sense of expansion, as if their consciousness was spreading outward with the dimensional ruptures. Peter Gonzalez sat in a small room beneath the mountains of former China. His hands rested on the control panel of his Liberty Point. As he activated the final sequence, he thought of his family who had evacuated to Mars weeks earlier. He would never see them again, but they might survive because of what he was doing now. "Device active," he reported through his headset. "Dimensional rupture beginning in Sector 4. Similar reports came in from around the world. Major Sanders in Brazil, a scientist named Helen Parker in Australia, a former teacher named Dan Rogers in what had once been Russia, all of them giving their lives to ensure the plan's success. The Earth's crust fractured along predetermined lines, oceans boiled, and rose into the sky as steam. The planet's core became unstable, releasing enormous energies. But the destruction wasn't random. The volunteer operators guided it, using their minds to shape the dimensional tiers, directing them outward toward the Imperial fleet. In orbit, Jack Miller watched it happen from a window on Xorcraft's command ship. Earth, the only home humanity had known for most of its history, was breaking apart below him. The sight filled him with grief, but also pride. Humans had chosen this end rather than submission. "What have you done?" Xorcraft demanded, his skin flashing red and black with alarm. "Stop this immediately." "We can't stop it," Jack said quietly. "And neither can you." The alien commander barked orders. Imperial ships began to move, trying to escape the expanding wave of distortion that spread outward from Earth. But it was too late. The dimensional ruptures moved faster than light itself, catching ship after ship in their web. Jack saw the effects ripple through the fleet. Metal twisted in impossible ways. Energy weapons fired only to have their beams curve back on themselves. Some ships simply vanished, pulled into spaces between dimensions. Others exploded as their power cores destabilized. Xorcraft's flagship shuddered as the distortion reached it. Alarms blared throughout the vessel. Crew members ran in panic. "You've doomed your entire species for nothing," the alien commander said, his voice thick with rage. Jack shook his head. "Not for nothing. For freedom. And not our entire species." He smiled slightly. "We've had colonies on Mars for decades. Generation ships left our system years ago. Humanity will survive, Commander, without the Empire's boot on our neck." The ship lurched again, more violently this time. A crack appeared in the wall of the command center, leaking strange light. Jack felt himself being pulled toward it by an impossible gravity. Xorcraft grabbed a weapon and aimed it at Jack. "You will not survive to see it." "Neither will you," Jack replied calmly. The dimensional rupture tore through the command center before the alien could fire. Jack felt himself falling, but not in any direction he could name. The world around him stretched and twisted. For a moment, he thought he could see everything at once. Earth shattering, the Imperial fleet dying, and beyond that, impossibly distant stars. Karen Williams watched it all happen from the relative safety of Mars. The small human colony had been established on the red planet years earlier as a first step toward the stars. Now it might be humanity's last outpost. The sensors showed Earth breaking apart, the pieces drifting away from each other. The Imperial fleet, once so mighty, was being torn to shreds by forces it couldn't understand. The dimensional ruptures spread through space like cracks in glass. Some of the colonists wept as they watched their homeworld die. Karen felt tears on her own face, but she also felt something else, a sense that the sacrifice had meaning. Earth had fallen, but in a way of humanity's own choosing. "They did it," she whispered. "They really did it." Beside her, a young scientist named Steve Baker looked at the readings with wide eyes. "The ruptures are still spreading, and they're following the Imperial communication network. It's like they're being guided." What no one had expected was the cascade effect. As Earth tore itself apart, the dimensional ruptures created something unexpected. A chain reaction that spread through the Imperial fleet's faster-than-light communication network. Karen Williams and the Mars colonists watched in awe as their sensors tracked the phenomenon. The ruptures moved outward from Earth's remains, following invisible lines that connected the Imperial ships to their home systems. "It's using their own technology against them," said Steve Baker, checking and rechecking the readings. "The distortions are traveling through their communication network." Karen leaned closer to the screen. "How far will it spread?" "I don't know," Steve admitted. "But at this rate, it could reach the Empire's core worlds within days." The Mars colony had become humanity's main outpost. Nearly 10,000 people lived there now, in domes and underground habitats. They had enough supplies to last for years, maybe decades with careful rationing. But they were cut off from Earth forever. Lisa Powell had escaped to Mars before the final destruction. She worked with Karen to understand what was happening. The operators, Lisa said quietly. The volunteers who connected to the Liberty points. I think their consciousness somehow merged with the ruptures. What do you mean? Karen asked. Lisa pointed to strange patterns in the data. Look at these energy signatures. They're partly human brainwave patterns. When the operators died, their minds didn't just stop existing. They became part of the rupture effect. Are you saying they're still alive somehow? Not alive, Lisa said, but not completely gone either. Their final thoughts, their intentions are guiding the spread. And their intention was to strike back at the Empire. The Mars colony had limited contact with the rest of the solar system. Their long-range communications could reach the small outposts on Europa and Titan, as well as the handful of generation ships that had left years earlier. All reported the same thing. Earth was gone, but so was the Imperial threat. Days passed, then weeks. The sensors continued to track the spreading distortions. They had moved beyond the solar system now, traveling faster than light along the Imperial network. The effect was weakening with distance, but still powerful enough to cause severe damage. 1 month after Earth's destruction, the colony's sensors detected something new. A distress signal, using Imperial codes but translated into human languages. This is Captain Lev Morn of the Outer Rim Defense Fleet. The message said, to any who can hear this, the Empire is under attack. Central worlds report massive disturbances in space-time. Imperial City has gone dark. If you are responsible for this weapon, we request immediate cessation of hostilities. The Empire is willing to negotiate. Karen and the colony leaders gathered to discuss the message. Should we respond? Asked one of the council members. What would we say? Karen replied. We can't stop what's happening. The cascade has a life of its own now. More messages came in over the following days. Imperial outposts reporting chaos. Subject worlds declaring independence as Imperial control collapsed. The vast empire that had threatened to enslave humanity was falling apart. Then, 2 months after Earth's end, their sensors detected something else. Ships approaching Mars. Not Imperial designs, but something different. They're from the Proxima system, said Steve, analyzing the signals, a former Imperial subject world. The ships sent a message ahead of them. To the survivors of Earth, we have heard what you did, what you sacrificed to break the Empire's power. We come in peace, seeking alliance. Karen looked around at the other colonists. Humanity was reduced to a fraction of its former numbers. They had lost their homeworld. But they had gained something too, respect among the stars, and perhaps new allies. Should we trust them? Someone asked. Lisa Powell stood up. We should hear what they have to say. Earth is gone, but humanity isn't. We need to look to the future now. The Proxima ships entered orbit around Mars. Representatives prepared to meet with the colony leaders. It would be the first peaceful contact between humans and aliens. Karen looked at a photo of Earth she kept in her pocket. The blue-green world that no longer existed. We did what we had to do, she whispered. And somehow, we're still here. 50 years had passed since Earth destroyed itself. The small colony on Mars had grown into a thriving community of 30,000 people. New domes stretched across the red surface, glittering under the distant sun. Children who had never seen Earth played in parks, filled with plants brought from the lost homeworld. Amy Powell, daughter of Lisa Powell, worked as the colony's chief archivist. Her job was to preserve the story of what happened, to make sure future generations understood the sacrifice that had been made. Today she stood before a class of students in the colony's main education center. Children aged 10 to 12 sat cross-legged on the floor, looking up at her with wide eyes. 50 years ago, Amy said, humans faced a choice: submit to the Empire or fight a war they couldn't win. They found a third option. One boy raised his hand. "My grandpa says Earth blew itself up. Is that true?" Amy nodded. "In a way, yes. Our ancestors triggered a reaction that destroyed Earth. But they did it to save humanity, and though they didn't know it at the time, to free countless other worlds from imperial rule." The dimensional cascade had spread far beyond anyone's expectations. Following the Imperial communication network, it had reached the Empire's central worlds, destroying or damaging their key installations. The power structure that had ruled thousands of systems for centuries collapsed within months. In the chaos that followed, subject worlds declared independence. Imperial forces, cut off from their command structure, either abandoned their posts or tried to carve out territories of their own. The remnants of humanity. The Mars colony, the smaller outposts on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, and the generation ships that had left the solar system years before Earth's destruction, found themselves in a new reality. They were few in number, but held in a strange mixture of fear and respect by other species. The human defense, other races called it. The willingness to destroy oneself rather than submit. It became both a cautionary tale and a source of admiration. After her class, Amy walked to the diplomatic center where representatives from 20 formerly subjugated races were meeting. The alliance that had formed in the Empire's absence was young and fragile, but growing stronger. Humans, despite their small numbers, played an important role in it. Archivist Powell greeted a tall, blue-skinned being from the Andromeda system. "I've been studying your records of Earth's final days. Remarkable. My people would never have considered such a solution. I hope no one ever has to again," Amy replied. The meeting was to discuss recent developments. Imperial remnants had been seen at the edges of known space, possibly regrouping. The new alliance needed to decide how to respond. "We should strike first," said one representative, a bird-like creature with iridescent feathers. "Show them the same mercy they showed us." "No," said Amy firmly. "We're not the Empire. We don't conquer. We defend." Her words carried weight. The reputation of humanity's sacrifice gave their few remaining voices special influence. That evening, Amy returned to her home, a small apartment in the oldest dome. On her wall hung a painting of Earth, created by an artist who had never seen the real planet. It showed a blue and green world, peaceful and whole. Amy touched the painting gently. She had never seen Earth herself. She had been born on Mars, 5 years after the destruction, but she felt connected to it through her mother's stories and the records she kept. Outside her window, the new ships were visible, constructed in the orbit of Mars. Humanity was rebuilding, slowly reclaiming its place among the stars. But they were different now. The species that had destroyed its own homeworld, rather than surrender its freedom, carried that history with it. "We remember," Annie whispered to the painting. It was the colony's motto, carved on the memorial at the center of the first dome. "We remember Earth. We remember the sacrifice. We remember why." And as long as they remembered, Earth's final message to the stars would never be forgotten. Freedom was worth any price, even the ultimate one.